Hello and welcome to Sandland of Sound Waves. My name is Noah Kotkin, and this is week 27, day 133. Today we'll be reading from 1 Kings chapter 6. In the 418th year after the Israelites came out of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, the 2nd month, he began to build the temple of the Lord. The temple that King Solomon built for the Lord was 60 cubits long, 20 wide, and 30 high. The portico at the front of the main hall of the temple extended the width of the temple, that is 20 cubits, and projected 10 cubits from the front of the temple. He made narrow windows high up in the temple walls. Against the wall of the main hall in the inner sanctuary he built a structure around the building, in which there were side rooms. The lowest floor was 5 cubits wide, the middle floor 6 cubits, and the third floor 7. He made offset ledges around the outside of the temple so that nothing would be inserted into the temple walls. In building the temple, only blocks dressed at the quarry were used, and no hammer, chisel, or any other iron tool was heard at the temple site while it was being built. The entrance to the lowest floor was on the south side of the temple. A stairway led up to the middle level, and from there to the third. So he built the temple and completed it, roofing it with beams and cedar planks. And he built the side rooms all along the temple. The height of each was 5 cubits, and they were attached to the temple by beams of cedar. The word of the Lord came to Solomon, "As for this temple you are building, if you follow my decrees, observe my laws, and keep all my commandments and obey them, I will fulfill through you the promise I gave to David your father, and I will live among the Israelites and will not abandon my people Israel." So Solomon built the temple and completed it. He lined its interior walls with cedar boards, paneling them from the floor to the temple of the ceiling, covered the floor of the temple with planks of juniper. He partitioned off 20 cubits at the rear of the temple with cedar boards from floor to ceiling, within the temple of the inner sanctuary, the most holy place. The main hall in front of the room was 40 cubits long. The inside of the temple was cedar, carved with gourds and open flowers. Everything was cedar. No stone was to be seen. He prepared the inner sanctuary within the temple to set the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord there. The inner sanctuary was 20 cubits long, 20 wide, and 20 high. He overlaid the inside with pure gold, and he overlaid the altar of cedar. Solomon covered the inside of the temple with pure gold, and he extended gold chains across from the front of the inner sanctuary, which was overlaid with gold. So he overlaid the whole interior with gold. He also overlaid with gold the altar, which belongs to the inner sanctuary. For the inner sanctuary, he made a pair of cherubim out of olive wood, each 10 cubits high. One wing of the first cherub was 5 cubits long, and the other wing was 5 cubits, 10 cubits from wing tip to tip. The sanctioned cherub also measured 10 cubits, for the 2 cherubim were identical in size and shape. The height of each cherub was 10 cubits. He placed the cherubim inside the innermost room of the temple, with the wings spread out. The wings of one cherub touched one wall, while the wings of the other touched the other wall. And the wings touched each other in the middle room. He overlaid the cherubim with gold. On the walls all around the temple in both the inner and outer rooms, he carved cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers. He also covered the floors of both the inner and the outer rooms of the temple with gold. For the entrance to the inner sanctuary, he made doors out of olive that were 1/5 of the width of the sanctuary. And on the 2 olive wood doors, he carved cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, and overlaid the cherubim and palm trees with hammered gold. In the same way for the entrance to the main hall, he made door frames out of olive wood that were 1/4 the width of the hall. He also made 2 doors out of juniper wood, having each 2 leaves that turned into sockets. He carved cherubim palm trees and opened flowers on them and overlaid them with gold hammered evenly over the carvings. And he built the inner courtyard of 3 courses dressed of stone and 1 course of trimmed cedar beams. The foundation of the temple of the Lord was laid in the 4th year, in the month of Ziv. In the 11th year, it was the month of Vol, the 8th month. The temple was finished in all of its details according to its specifications. He spent 7 years building it. Now let's consider our 7 arrows or 7 questions. 1. What does this passage say? 2. What does this passage mean to its original audience? 3. What does this passage tell us about God? 4. What does this passage tell us about humanity? 5. What does this passage demand of me? 6. How does this passage change the way I relate to people? And 7. What does this passage prompt me to pray to God? God took great care in the construction of his temple. No detail is too small or beyond his notice. He shaped the temple to reflect his holiness and made it possible for sinful humans to worship him. Of particular note are the cherubim or angels that filled the temple. If you remember back in Genesis 3, God kicked Adam and Eve out of the garden due to their sin. They once were able to walk and talk with God in the garden as a man does with his friend, but they were forever banished from his presence afterward. God stationed angels around the Garden of Eden so that Adam and Eve and their descendants could never re-enter the garden in his presence. Centuries later, the temple modeled the garden. It was a physical location where God lived among his people. The angels still guard God's presence, but God invites us into his presence, not cutting us off completely. But to enter his presence, a sacrifice is required. Picture is clear. A relationship with God is made possibly by a sacrificial substitute. The only way for you to come to God is through faith in Jesus' sacrifice. Thank you for tuning in to San Leandro Sound Waves, and make sure to come back tomorrow.